Hi, Phyllis here from southernfrugal.com. This morning I'm going to make a coconut cream pie. Now this is the old-fashioned coconut cream pie. It's going to have a meringue topping on it, and I'm making the crust with Crisco. So this is really the way they made the coconut cream pie in the 1950s and maybe even the 1940s, I'm not sure. But this is the way my mother made the coconut cream pie, and it's just always the way I've made it. Now I don't make it real often because it takes probably an hour to make it, so it's a little time consuming, but you know, in the end it's worth it for a once in a while treat. Alright, we're ready to get started. Now the first thing, this is going to be in 3 parts by the way, and the first thing is going to be the crust. Fix this so you can see. There we go. Now you'll need a large pie plate, and I just use this one because it's higher up on the sides. Alright, first you're going to need 1 1/4 cups of plain all-purpose flour, and you don't have to sift that before you measure it because this is just a pie crust. And there's the 1/4 cup. 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Just put that in. Okay, now I've got my dry ingredients. 1/3 cup of Crisco shortening. Now I don't use the butter flavor or anything like that. This is exactly the Crisco they had in the 1950s. I think you can see that. Not butter flavored or anything, just regular shortening. So this is 1/3 cup plus 2 tablespoons. Now I'm going to use my fingers for this. Get it all out of the little cup. Now, I'm going to mix this with my fingers. And to me, it's just a lot quicker than using the little cutter thing. Let me show you that. This is just a lot of trouble. I just don't like to use it just because it's so much trouble. And you can really get it in there, the Crisco and the flour mixed in there, I think, faster if you do it with your fingers. So we're just going to keep mixing this until we get it to where it's a small pea size. And that doesn't take long at all. Again, you're just mixing all these ingredients. Alright, that should about do it right there. Alright, now, this is 1 egg yolk beaten with 3 tablespoons of cold water. And this is going to be my liquid. Now this just makes a pretty pie crust, okay? Just going to dump that all in at one time. And the egg really helps hold everything together and really makes it easier to roll out, I think. And I'm just going to squish it all together. See how I'm doing that? Gotten it all together, form it into a ball. Now, after you've done pie crust for a while, obviously it's much cheaper to make them yourself. And once you get the hang of it, it's very easy, and you'll wonder why you ever bought those frozen pie crust, really. Because it's so easy and it tastes so much better than the frozen pie crust. Even though, I mean, I've used the frozen pie crust when I didn't have time. but this really doesn't take that much time. All right, I've kind of pushed it out into a disc shape, and now I'm going to show you how I roll it out. And I do it this way because it makes less mess, and it will go much easier into the pie pan. All right, I'm going to rinse my hands off real quick. Alright, we're ready to roll it out now. Now, the way I roll it out, you don't need any extra flour, okay? All you need is some clear plastic rag. So I'm going to tear off a couple of these sheets, and they'll go on the bottom. And there you go. There's the bottom. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put my pie crust dough right on the sheet, mash it out a little bit more. I did watch a video of a lady who rolled out her pie crust not using a rolling pin. She just kept doing it with her hands, and that's very interesting. And it probably works out pretty good, but it does take longer, it seems like. Now, don't use any extra flour. I'm going to put 2 of the plastic wrap right over the top. Put another one over. Alright. Now I'm just going to start rolling it, and notice I didn't use any extra flour. So I'm going to start right in the middle and just kind of go in every direction. And try to keep it round if you can. And the reason I like rolling it out with the saran wrap is because when you go to pick it up and put it in the pie pan, or in my case the glass pie pan, you don't have to worry about it tearing because the saran wrap is pliable. It just works out better for me. Anyway, you might want to try it this way, and also you notice there's no mess, okay? I don't have any mess to clean up, and I'm real big on not having to clean up some kind of mess, you know, like flour everywhere. So if I can avoid that, I do. Alright, so we've got this rolled out about thin enough, I think. Just check it and get it about 2 inches larger than your pie pan. So that looks about right. Alright, now we're ready to pick it up and put it into the pie plate. I'll try to get it a little more round. Alright, I'm going to take the top section off, the saran wrap. See how nice that is? Alright, now I'm going to put it in my pie plate. So I'm just going to pick it up. See, you can just move it all around. And I'm going to try to position it right in the middle of this pie plate. And if I need to move it around a little bit, I can, because this saran wrap is still on it. Okay, now I'm going to mash it into the pie plate, starting in the middle, because I don't want any of the air bubbles in there. And I'm going to mash the sides in. And see, this really didn't take that long at all. Alright, I've got it all in. Now I'm ready to peel off the plastic. Alright, there it is. Now, I like the crust, you know, around the edge. So I'm just going to cut some of it off, and the rest of it I'm going to turn under. Just cutting a little bit of it off. Alright, that should do it. So that's our only waste right there. Now, I'm going to turn it under and just pinch it a little bit. Because again, you know, you want it to look like a homemade pie. You don't want it to be so fancy that people think that it's a bought pie. So I'm just turning this under a little bit and pinching it up. Just like that with both fingers. Or 4 fingers, really. Alright, just about finished. Now this is the first step in making the coconut cream pie. You need an unbaked pie shell. Now I wouldn't fault you if you bought your pie crust, because that is a little time consuming. Now the homemade is much better, but sometimes time is more important. Okay. Now, if you find any air bubbles in it, which hopefully you won't, but if you do, now there's air bubbles right there. I'm going to take them out with the fork. Once they're out, I'm just going to seal that back. Alright, mashing it up on the sides. There it is. Looks like a frozen pie crust, doesn't it? Huh? See? Alright, now, just to be sure that it's not going to rise up in the middle, I am going to put a couple of little fork marks all around just to make sure that it doesn't puff up in the middle. Now those little fork punchers will disappear once it starts cooking. Alright, now we are going to bake this at 425 degrees for about 15 to 18 minutes depending on your oven, and we'll be back. Hi, we're back, and the pie crust, as you can see, is already cooked. Turned out rather nicely. It's just lightly browned. And now we're ready to make the filling, okay? Now, the filling is going to be very, very rich, and there are specific ingredients that you'll need to use to make it really good, okay? Now, the first one I'm going to explain about the coconut. There it is. It's fresh frozen. Now, in the 1950s, I think, is when that Angel Flake coconut came out, and everybody started using that then. But prior to that, it was this really hard to chew coconut that it was just in long cylinder kind of things, rounded, kind of like about the size of a pencil lead, and it was very hard to chew and usually dry and somewhat tasteless. So a lot of people used the fresh coconut before the Angel Flake came out. And then I'm not sure when this came out, but it wasn't called Bird's Eye when it first came out. And it's about 6 ounces of coconut, and it's fresh frozen, and it's in smaller flakes. And this is the best, okay? So you can usually find this in your frozen fruit sections, certainly of Walmart and other supermarkets. So if you can, use this. It's much, much better. And you want to reserve like a tablespoon of that to just sprinkle over the meringue when we get to that step. Now, here are the ingredients for the filling. You'll need 3 cups of whole milk, 1 cup of sugar, 1/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and you'll just need a dash of salt, 3 tablespoons of butter, and 4 egg yolks. Now these are extra large Eggland Best eggs. Now I separated the whites because this is going to be what we use in the meringue. This is the 4 egg whites here. And then we used an egg yolk in the pie crust, so we're going to use that 5th egg white in the meringue also. You'll need a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Now, I have got a little secret ingredient. I'll show you that later. All right, the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and turn that burner on to medium. And the first thing I'm going to do is put in the sugar. 1 cup of sugar, 1/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour. And I'm just going to mix that in because that'll help to take any lumps out of the flour and make it easier to incorporate into the milk. And I'm going to go ahead and put my dash of salt in. All right, now it's time for the milk. So that's 3 cups of whole milk. And you're going to cook this until it thickens, which should take a little while. And I like to just keep stirring mine with the whisk. That way I'm assured there'll be no lumps in it. All right, once this thickens, and of course it'll get really hot, then I'm going to come back and show you how to incorporate it in with the egg yolks. All right, we're back, and my milk and flour and sugar mixture is almost ready to start boiling. Now it has already thickened up, so now I'm going to beat these 4 egg yolks just a little bit, and I'm going to start tempering them. And I'm going to do that by dipping out some of my milk mixture, put it in, and mix it up real good. I'm going to do that maybe 3 or 4 times, because you don't want the eggs to scramble in the mixture. So tempering them gets them up almost to the temperature of the milk mixture. And do it one more time. Now, the milk and sugar and flour mixture, you do need to stir it constantly while it's thickening up. And you want to do that so it won't stick to the bottom. So it's going to take about 15 minutes of stirring it to get it up to the right temperature. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and add in my egg mixture. Now I can already tell that it's sort of sticking to the bottom a little bit, so I'm going to take it off the burner and just keep stirring it. Turn my burner down a little bit. Yeah, because it will definitely stick to the bottom if you don't keep stirring it. So I'm going to get the rest of this egg mixture out. Now it has definitely stuck to the bottom some, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pour it in a different pot real quick. Can you see that it's slightly stuck to the bottom, and I don't want that brown in my mixture. I mean, there's still a little bit in there. Now you want to keep it over medium heat until just before boiling, so you're really cooking the eggs right now. And just in the time that it took me to mix up the eggs, it started sticking to the bottom because I had my burner a little bit too hot. You do have to keep stirring it. Now some people fix this in a double boiler, which would, you'd be assured that nothing would stick to the bottom or burn at that point. All right. I'm going to dip some of those little brown flakes out of this and we'll be back. Alright, we're back and we're in a different pot, and I have picked out some of the little brown flakes. Now, mishaps like this definitely happen, and but it's easy enough to remedy. Just pour the milk and egg and sugar and flour mixture into a different pot and just keep cooking. Now, this has just just before coming to a boil. And it's, oh, there's another little brown spot. It's easy enough to pick out. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut my burner off. And now it's time to add the fresh frozen coconut. Now I'm going to reserve about a tablespoon of this to sprinkle on the top of the meringue. So I'm just going to hold my finger in there like that and let it all come out except a little bit. Now this coconut is very moist. See, I held back about a tablespoon. All right, now I'm just going to mix this in. Now there might be some little black specks in your frozen coconut, and all that is part of the shell that's come off in the shredding process. And as I was saying a while ago, in the 1950s, I think, is when the Angel Flake coconut came out in the little can. But prior to that, the coconut was really pretty terrible, and most people shredded their own coconut. You could buy them fresh in the supermarket, even in the 50s. Now there's another little speck that I'm going to get out, and another one. All right, these are reality videos, so however it turns out, that's the way it is. All right, now we've got the coconut pretty well thoroughly mixed in here. And this is about how thick you want it, because once you put it in the refrigerator, of course, it's going to really set up then. Now I'm going to go ahead and add 3 tablespoons of butter while this mixture is still hot, and a teaspoon of vanilla. And then, for what I call my little secret ingredient, almond extract. Now, it won't taste like almond. What it will do is greatly enhance the taste of the coconut, which I like. It's very similar to coconut, the almond flavoring. So I'm going to use a half a teaspoon. And just mix this up. And just mix it around until your butter is completely melted. Okay, now it really smells good. Really good, okay? Very rich. Just keep stirring it around until that butter's all melted. I think that'll do it. All right. Now I'm going to get ready for making the meringue and get that set up, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back, and the pudding is done, the filling, and now we're ready to make the meringue. Now this is 5 extra large egg whites, okay? 1 came from the egg that I used in the crust, and then the 4 came from the eggs that I put in the filling. So this is a very rich coconut cream pie. Now I'm going to use 5 egg whites, 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar. I'll show you what that looks like, and I've probably had this for 3 or 4 years because you don't ever use very much of it. Now I'm going to mix a little bit of the sugar with this cream of tartar just to make it mix easier. Now this is 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm just going to take out a little bit of the sugar and mix it in with that cream of tartar just so it'll mix in easier with the eggs. And I'm going to go ahead and dump this in right to start with. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix these eggs up, or beat them, and this is just a little hand mixer, and it's got a burst here on it. Now what I do to just make it go a lot faster is I just hold that down the whole time. So I'm going to do that, and we'll be back. right, my egg whites have formed soft little peaks. Now I'm going to go ahead and start sprinkling in the sugar. Now this seems like a lot of sugar, but it's going to make a stable meringue. So I'm just going to sprinkle it in. All right, now I'm going to beat this until all this sugar gets dissolved. That's going to take a little while, and the way you know is you just put your finger in there and feel if you can feel any grit. If you can still feel the grit, you need to keep beating, okay? All right, we'll be back. All right, it's time to put the vanilla in. I'm just going to pour a little bit in. It's about a teaspoon. Mix that up. Okay, I've put some on my hand and I'm rubbing it around. I can't feel any of the sugar crystals, so that means it's ready. Now another good way to know it's ready, just take it and turn it upside down. Of course, if it comes out, you're in trouble, all right? But you want to make sure it doesn't move around the bowl. Now, one of the real keys to making meringue is when you crack your eggs and separate them, just make sure that absolutely none of the yolk gets in there. Make sure your utensils are really super clean because you don't want any grease on anything. And better to use a glass bowl than one of the plastic bowls because they always seem to retain some of the grease or oil in them. So as long as you use a glass bowl and your utensils are all clean, you should be good to go. All right, I did sling sugar all over the top of my stove because I was pouring the sugar in the wrong side when I was mixing it. It's a little hard to do this when you're recording and there's so many steps to it. All right, now my custard is still hot, okay? So I'm going to pour that in. And it's going to really fill up this pie crust. But that's really what you're looking for. Okay. Now we're ready to put the meringue on. And what you want to do is put the meringue on and seal up the sides. So this is a little tricky, so I'm going to start out on one side. Because I don't want my filling to come over the side. So I'm just going to go all around. And of course this is going to go ahead and start cooking the meringue from the bottom because the filling is still very hot. And I just do this to get it sealed on the edges first. That way I know it's not going to come out. The filling, that is. Alright. Okay, this is pretty well sealed all around the edges. Now, you're going to cook this in the oven at 375 degrees for about 15, maybe even 20 minutes. You want to make sure that the meringue is really totally cooked. And when it comes out, what I usually do is I cut the oven off and open the oven door and leave it sitting there, you know, just on the oven rack for a few minutes. and then take it out and put it on the counter and let it cool to just barely warm, and then you can put it in the refrigerator. Sorry, there are my dogs again. All right, there you have it. I'm going to put it in the oven now, and we'll be right back. I'm going to get my dogs quiet. All right, I got my dogs quiet, I think, okay? Now, we reserved about a tablespoon of the coconut, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of that over the top, and it will brown in the oven, so there's no need to, toast your coconut on the top. I mean, it'll do that in the oven. So this is going to be on bake, 375 degrees, for maybe, I'd say at least 15 minutes, because you want that meringue thoroughly cooked, okay? Okay, we'll be back when it gets done. Alrighty, here is the recipe for the coconut cream pie, and this is the 1950s version. And I'm just going to hold this, and you can probably put it on pause to get that. So there's the pie crust. There's the filling. There's the meringue. Okay, one more time. Let me back this off a little bit. Whoop. There. All right. There's the crust. There's the filling. And there's the meringue topping. All right, when it gets done, I will come back and show you what it looks like. All right, here is my completed coconut cream pie. And it did stay in the oven for a good 15 minutes, okay? And you can see the coconut's toasted. Some of it's actually a little burned. But I'm not going to cut it now, because if I do, the filling will be all runny. You'll need to let it cool to, just barely warm. Then put it in the refrigerator and let it stay for an hour or so, and then you're ready to cut it. All right, I hope you'll try this. It's just a lot of trouble, but it is so good. See you next time.